When my son died, I kept quiet about the inheritance, $800,000 and a factory. 3 days later, my daughter announced, the factory's already been sold. You can start packing your things. I just smiled. Half an hour later, my daughter and her husband were standing outside the building. Hi, my dear ones. Please tell us in the comments where you're listening from. We wish you an enjoyable story. A year had passed. A whole year since that terrible day when Alex died. I stood at his grave, holding Michael's hand. Linda stood beside us. We brought flowers and stood there silently. Michael placed a drawing on the grave, a plane in the sky. Dad, I'm doing great in school, he said seriously. Mostly A's and B's. And I play soccer now. Coach says I've got talent. I stroked his hair, trying to hold back tears. Linda placed a bouquet of daffodils, Alex's favorite flowers. I'm sorry, brother, she whispered. For everything. I was an idiot, but I'm changing. I promise. We stood there a while longer and then walked toward the exit. On the way, we ran into Robert and his wife. They were also coming to visit Alex's grave. Behind them walked a group of factory workers, about 15 people. We come every month, Robert said, to honor his memory. There'll never be another director like him. I thanked them and hugged them. Good people. Genuine people. The year had been hard, but we made it through. The factory worked steadily, even expanded. We opened a second division and hired 20 more people. Orders were coming in, big, long-term ones. I learned how to be a director, wasn't afraid anymore to make decisions, talk to clients, or sign contracts. William said proudly, "You've become a real businesswoman." I laughed. Me? A businesswoman? Linda worked in accounting. I praised her often, responsible, precise, never late. 6 months later, I gave her a raise. She cried when she saw the amount on her paycheck. "Mom, that's too much," she said. "It's what you've earned," I replied. "You deserve it." She rented her own place, a small one-bedroom, but cozy and hers. Furnished it simply, but tastefully. I'd visit her, drink tea, and we'd talk about everything, work, life, Michael. Slowly, I started trusting her again. Not completely yet. The scars of betrayal heal slowly, but little by little, step by step. Michael grew fond of Linda. He called her auntie, and Linda bloomed from that. She became softer, kinder, as if she'd finally found what she'd been searching for her whole life. One spring day, while we were sitting in the kitchen, Michael asked, "Grandma, when I grow up, can I run the factory?" I looked at him, 7 years old, already thinking about the future. "If you want to," I said. "It's your choice. You can run the factory, or you can choose something else. What matters is that you love what you do." "I want to be like Dad," Michael said firmly. "Dad was a good director, and I'll be a good one too." Linda wiped her tears. I hugged Michael. "You will, sweetheart. You definitely will." That summer, the three of us went to the beach for the first time in years. We rented a small cottage on the shore in the Outer Banks and stayed for 2 weeks. Michael swam, built sandcastles. Linda tanned and read books. I simply rested, sat by the water, watched the waves, and thought about life. Alex wasn't with us, but I felt him somewhere nearby, watching, happy that we were okay, that the family, though different now, was whole again, that Michael was laughing, that Linda had changed, that I was holding on. In the evenings, after Michael fell asleep, Linda and I would sit on the porch, drinking wine. "Mom," Linda said softly, "I've been thinking about the past, about how I behaved, and I realize I was a monster, a real monster." "You were," I admitted. "No point lying." "Brian's in prison," she went on. "I've written to him a few times. He hasn't replied. He's probably angry, thinks I betrayed him. But honestly, he betrayed me, convinced me everything was legal, that we had the right. He just wanted fast money." "Are you going to divorce him?" "Already did," Linda nodded. 2 months ago. Through court, in absentia. I don't want anything to do with him. Marrying him was a huge mistake." We sat quietly. The waves murmured, the stars shone above. "I think about Alex every day," Linda confessed. "I remember how we played as kids. How kind he was, how fair. How he shared his toys even when I took them from him. How he stood up for me at school when I was bullied. And what did I do in return? Tried to steal his business, kick you out. I betrayed my own family." She cried quietly, without sobs, just tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'll never forgive myself," she whispered. "Never. Even if you forgave me, even if Michael accepted me, I won't forgive myself." I took her hand. "You have to forgive," I said. Yourself too. Yes, you made mistakes. Big ones. But you're making things right. You work honestly, you care for Michael, you help me. That's already a lot. Alex would have forgiven you. He always forgave. He couldn't stay angry for long. Remember? You'd always get into trouble as a kid, and an hour later he'd already forgotten and be playing with you again. Linda smiled through her tears. Yeah, he was like that. He was golden. We sat late into the night, talking about the past, the future, life. For the first time in a year and a half, we really talked. Honestly, openly. I realized she truly had changed. This wasn't an act or an attempt to win me over. She understood her mistakes. She regretted them deeply and was trying to make things right. And that was enough. For forgiveness, that was enough. That fall, something big happened. A major client from Chicago visited our factory, the owner of a large construction company. He offered us a long-term contract, 3 years, a big one. To handle it, we have to expand again, buy new equipment, hire more people. Robert and I sat down to calculate. It was a risk. If we failed, we'd lose a lot. But if we succeeded, the factory would reach a whole new level. What do you think, Margaret? Robert asked. Should we take the risk? I thought about Alex. He was never afraid to take risks when he saw potential. He took loans, invested in equipment, and made the factory profitable. We'll take the risk, I decided. Alex would have taken it. And so will we. We signed the contract, bought new machines, hired 40 more workers, and opened a third division. The factory buzzed with life, running 2 shifts. I was there from morning till night. Linda helped, took over all the paperwork so I could focus on strategy. Vera helped with Michael, picked him up from school, fed him, helped with homework. Don't worry, she'd say. We've got it covered. We finished the first order right on time. The client was pleased, paid in full, no delays. Then came another order, and another. By year's end, the factory was at full capacity. Profits had doubled. I handed out big bonuses, generous ones, from the heart. Everyone was happy, grateful. At the New Year's party, Robert stood up to make a toast. Friends, he said, I want to raise a glass to our director, Margaret. We all remember how hard it was for her. She lost her son but took over the factory. Many would have broken down, but she stood tall. She grew the business, expanded it, gave 100 people jobs. Hats off to you, Margaret. Everyone stood and clapped. I sat there, red with embarrassment, not used to that kind of praise. Thank you, I said. But it's not just me. It's all of us together. You do the work, I just sign the papers. That's the secret. Everyone laughed. Robert came over and hugged me warmly, like a father. Alex would be proud, he whispered. So proud. That evening, when everyone had left, I stayed alone in Alex's office. I sat at his desk, looking at the photo of the 3 of us, happy. I did it, son, I thought. I kept your business alive. I grew it. I gave people jobs. I'm raising Michael. I forgave Linda. I'm living on, just like you wanted. Tears rolled down my cheeks, but these were different tears, not of grief, but of something bright. Maybe pride. Maybe peace. The understanding that I was stronger than I ever thought I could be. The phone rang. It was William. Margaret, Happy New Year, he said warmly. How are things? Good, I replied. Really good. The factory's growing, Michael's doing great in school, Linda's working hard. Everything's good. Glad to hear it, he said sincerely. Alex would have been happy. He believed in you. And he was right. We said goodbye. I turned off the light in the office and left. The factory was quiet and empty, it was a day off. But I knew tomorrow the machines would hum again, the work would resume. Life would go on. At home, Michael was waiting for me, still awake. Grandma, where were you? He asked. At the factory, sweetheart, finishing up some work. You're always at the factory, he said with a pout. You don't play with me much. I knelt down and hugged him. I'm sorry, Michael. There's just so much work. But I'll try to spend more time with you. I promise. Can we go to the movies tomorrow? He asked. There's a new cartoon out. Sure, I smiled. Let's go. Of course we'll go. We went to bed. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the past year, about everything I'd gone through, about loss and about what I'd found. I lost my son, the worst thing that can ever happen to a mother. I lost my daughter too, for a while at least. I was left alone with my grandson and a factory on my shoulders. But I made it through. I didn't break, didn't give up. I learned to run the factory, gave people jobs. I got my daughter back. I'm raising my grandson. I live with dignity. Alex would have been proud. My husband would have been proud. I'm proud of myself. It's a strange feeling to be proud of yourself. My whole life I'd been in the background, first behind my husband, then behind my kids. There was always someone more important, someone who mattered more. And me? I was just a mom, just a wife, just a grandmother. But now I'm not just. I'm a director, a provider for 100 families, the keeper of what my husband and son built together. I'm raising a grandson who'll grow up to be a good man. I'm a strong woman. I just never showed it before. I didn't even know that strength was in me. Alex knew. That's why he trusted me with everything. That's why he wrote that letter, "You're the strongest one." He believed in me more than I ever believed in myself. And I proved him right. That spring, when Michael turned 8, the three of us went to visit Alex's grave. We brought flowers, cleaned up the site. Michael told his dad about school, his friends, and how he'd won first place in the school math competition. Linda placed her bouquet and stood quietly for a while. Then she said, "Brother, I'm changing. Really changing. I work honestly now, I help Mom, I spend time with Michael. Please forgive me again. And thank you for protecting Mom back then. If it weren't for you, she would have been left with nothing. You took care of her even after you were gone. You were the best brother in the world." I stood beside her, holding Michael's hand, looking at Alex's photo on the tombstone. He was smiling. The same picture of us three at the lake house. "Thank you, son," I spoke in my thoughts. "Thank you for everything, for your care, your foresight, and for believing in me. I'll do my best to be worthy of it. I'll raise Michael, keep the factory going, forgive Linda completely. I'll live in a way that makes you proud, wherever you are now." We stayed a little longer and then headed home. On the way, we stopped by a cafe and got ice cream. We sat on the summer terrace, eating and talking. Just a regular family, a grandmother, an aunt, and a nephew. A bit battered by life, not quite like the others, but still a family. That evening, as I was tucking Michael into bed, he asked, "Grandma, do you ever get tired of being strong?" I looked at him in surprise. "Why do you ask?" "Aunt Linda said you're the strongest, that you've been through everything and made it through. I just wondered, isn't it hard for you?" I stroked his hair. "It is, sweetheart. Sometimes it's very hard. But you know what? When you have people you love around you, it gets easier. I have you, Aunt Linda, good people at the factory. You all make it worth being strong." "I'll be strong too," Michael said. "Like you. And like Dad." "You will," I smiled. "You definitely will." He fell asleep. I quietly closed the door and went to the kitchen, made some tea and sat by the window. Outside, it was getting dark, the streetlights glowing one by one. I thought about the future, how Michael would grow up, go to college, maybe come back and take over the factory, or maybe choose a different path. That's his right. Maybe Linda would meet someone good, remarry, have kids. Or maybe not. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that she's happy. And me? I'll be there, helping, supporting, protecting. I'll be a grandmother, a mother, a director. I'll live a full life, not just exist through the rest of it. I'm 61. That's not the age when life ends, it's when it truly begins. When you finally understand what matters and what doesn't. When you stop being afraid and start acting. Alex taught me that. Even after his death, he taught me, showed me that I could do more than I ever thought possible, that I have strength, wisdom, and character. And I'm grateful to him for that, for the lesson, for the faith, for the love he left behind along with the factory and the money. I finished my tea, washed the cup, and looked out the window one last time. The city was asleep. Somewhere out there, on the edge of town, stood the factory, my factory, Alex's factory, Michael's future factory. The work continues. Life continues. And I'm managing, just like I always have. And I always will. I sat in the kitchen, looking at my hands. Strange, but after what Linda had told me, I suddenly smiled. Surprised even myself. She hadn't noticed my smile. She hadn't noticed anything for the past 3 days. Maybe even before that. Maybe I was only realizing it now. My son Alex had been in the ground for only 72 hours. I counted every hour, every minute. I couldn't help it. I hadn't yet gotten used to the silence in the house, to that dead, crushing silence where I'd never again hear his voice in the hallway. "Mom, I'm home." Never again hear him step into the kitchen, open the fridge, laugh. "Made stew again, huh? You know I love that stuff." He'd always been loud, cheerful, so much energy in him, enough for 3 people. Even when he moved back in with me after the divorce from Rachel, he never turned bitter or angry. Most men drown themselves in booze after divorce, but not my Alex. He used to say, "Mom, that's life. Things didn't work out with Rachel, guess it wasn't meant to be. But I've got Michael. We'll be fine, don't worry. The factory's doing okay. In a year, I'll buy an apartment, and we'll move." Michael, my grandson, 6 years old. Fair-haired, curly, all Alex. Same eyes, same laugh. Now he sleeps in the next room, and Alex is gone, and will never come back. A heart attack at 42. How is that even possible? 42. I'll probably be healthier at 60. The doctors just shrugged. Said his heart gave out, from stress, from overwork, from that factory. I didn't cry at the funeral. Everyone was shocked, whispering. My neighbor Vera told someone in the kitchen, "She's in shock, poor thing. Doesn't realize it yet. Give it time, she'll break down later, you'll see." But I understood. I understood perfectly. The tears were inside me, turned to stone, couldn't come out. Just sat there in my chest, pressing so hard it was hard to breathe. But they wouldn't come out. Maybe that's what real grief is, when you can't even cry. Linda arrived the day before the funeral from Chicago with her husband, Brian. At first, I was glad. My daughter, my own flesh and blood. I thought she'd support me, help me, that we'd face the grief together. She's 2 years older than Alex, always the serious, responsible one. She used to stand up for her little brother. I remember once in school a boy bullied Alex, and she hit him over the head with a textbook so hard the principal called me in. The principal said, "Your daughter's out of control." But I was proud, she stood up for her own. But something changed. I don't know when. Maybe when she left for college in Chicago. Maybe when she married Brian. He's in business of some kind, I never really knew what. They have money, that's obvious, nice car, expensive clothes. Linda's always done up now, makeup, manicure, polished and beautiful. But her eyes are empty. I met them at the train station. I hugged Linda, she hugged me back, but it felt distant, like a duty. Brian shook my hand and said, "My condolences." And that was it. Not another word the entire drive. Linda stared at her phone, Brian too. I sat in the back seat, thinking, God, they're going to bury her brother, and they don't even care. At the funeral, she barely cried. Kept stepping out to take calls, then coming back. Brian too. I greeted people, set up food, served guests. Relatives helped, neighbors too. And my daughter, she stood off to the side. Every single factory worker came. 50 people, maybe more, the whole shop, the accounting office, even the guards. They all spoke kindly of Alex. Master Robert, an older man, around 65, even broke down sobbing. There'll never be another director like him. He was fair, kind, always paid on time, gave bonuses. Not like others, just squeezing people dry. Alex was one of a kind. God bless him. I patted Robert's shoulder, comforting him. And I thought, strangers are crying for my son, and my own daughter isn't. Linda stood in the corner, listening, a glass in her hand. Her face, I don't even know how to describe it. Empty, distant, as if she wasn't really there. Brian hovered around her, whispering something in her ear. She nodded. I found it strange at the time, but brushed it off. Grief hits everyone differently, I thought. After the funeral, Linda and Brian stayed the night at my place. I made up the pull-out couch for them in the living room. I didn't sleep all night, just sat in the kitchen, staring out the window, thinking of Alex. Remembering him as a little boy, his first day of school, college graduation, the way he brought the factory back to life after his father died. The factory, Small Metal Works. My husband worked there all his life, and for the last 15 years, he was the director. When he died 10 years ago, the factory almost went under. Debts, old equipment, no orders. That's when Alex stepped in. Took out loans, bought new machines, found clients. In 5 years, he turned it around. People had jobs again, fair pay. I was proud of him. So proud. And this morning, Linda came into the kitchen. I was already up, tea on the stove, getting Michael ready for daycare. He needed some sense of normal life again. Linda sat across from me at the table. Brian stayed in the living room, pretending to watch TV, but I knew he was listening. I could feel it. Mom, we need to talk, Linda said. Her voice was all business, like she was in a meeting, not talking to her mother. About the factory. I was pouring tea, froze with the teapot in my hand. Steam rose, burning my fingers, but I didn't feel it. What about the factory? I asked quietly, trying to keep my voice steady. It's running fine. Alex set everything up perfectly. The workers are busy, there are plenty of orders. The factory needs to be sold, she said flatly. Just like that. No preface, no explanation. As if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Brian's already found a buyer. They're offering a good price. A very good one. Something snapped inside me, like I fell through a trapdoor. But I carefully set the kettle back on the stove and poured her some tea. My hands were shaking, but I tried not to show it. It's too soon, I said. My voice sounded strange, like it wasn't mine. We just buried Alex the day before yesterday. Are you out of your mind? Sell what? Mom, you don't get it, she sighed, an irritated sigh, like I was some dumb kid who needed simple things explained to her. None of us can handle the factory. You don't know anything about it. You worked your whole life as an accountant at a bakery. I live in Chicago. I've got my own job, my own life. Michael is little. Who's going to run it? You're Robert? He'll retire in a year. Better to sell while the price is good. We'll split the money, and that's that. Everyone gets their share. I looked at her, looked for a long time, closely, at my daughter, the child I gave birth to over 40 years ago. The one who came first, who I labored with all night. The one I then raised, carried in my arms, fed, dressed, walked to school. The one now sitting in my house, at my table, drinking my tea, and talking about money. 3 days after we buried her own brother. What about Michael? I asked, barely getting the words out. Alex wanted his son. He wanted the factory to go to Michael. Your father built that factory from the ground up, then Alex. It's a family business. It's... Mom, stop. Linda cut me off, sharp. Michael is little. He's 6. By the time he grows up, the factory will have gone bankrupt 100 times. He'll grow up and figure out what he wants to do. Maybe he'll be an artist or a musician. And right now, as the eldest child in the family, I'm making the decision. The only child, to be exact. She said the last part quietly, but I heard it. I heard it, and went cold. From the living room, Brian said something loudly into his phone about a contract, deadlines, the first installment. The words drifted in bits and pieces, but I understood enough. They'd already decided everything. Planned it all. Probably even before the funeral. Linda, I began, taking her hand across the table. Her hand was cold, like a stranger's. Sweetheart, let's wait. At least a month. We'll sort it out calmly, without rushing. Maybe we can find a good manager, or... She yanked her hand away, so sharply, like I'd burned her. There's nothing to wait for, she said, standing up. Her cup clinked against the saucer. The contract's already signed. Brian took a deposit, $50,000 in advance. During the funeral, by the way. So pack your things. Your personal things. This apartment is part of the deal too. The buyer wants the whole package, factory, real estate, everything together. That's how it's most profitable. I stared at her in disbelief. I didn't want to believe that this was my daughter speaking. My girl, the one I loved and still love. What are you talking about? I whispered. What deposit? During the funeral? What apartment? This is my apartment. I've lived here for 30 years. Technically it was in Alex's name, Linda said, pulling her phone from her pocket and scrolling through something with cool, businesslike calm. After Dad died, he re-registered all the documents. So the apartment is part of the estate. The estate is split equally between us. I've disposed of my share. And your share? She lifted her eyes and looked at me, then smirked. Just like that, smirked. But you're about to be fully retired anyway. You'll rent something simpler, a 1-bedroom on the edge of town. Your pension will cover it. You'll manage somehow. Somehow. I repeated. I'll manage somehow. Well, what else? She shrugged. Mom, I'm not doing it on purpose. That's just life. I've got a mortgage in Chicago, 3-bedroom in a good neighborhood. We have to pay it. Brian has a business. It needs investment. And this is an opportunity. It's not our fault that Alex, well, you know, life is life. And that's when I smiled. I don't even know where the smile came from. Maybe from pain. Maybe because I suddenly remembered how Alex had sat in this very kitchen 3 months earlier, late at night. Michael was already asleep. We were having tea with jam. He'd been quiet a long time, then said, Mom, if anything happens to me, don't worry. I set everything up. I did the paperwork right, wrote a will. Linda won't be able to take anything. I've got a good lawyer. He explained how to do it. You and Michael will be protected. I got scared then, clutched my chest. Alex, what are you saying? What will? You're young. He smiled and hugged me. Mom, I'm just being careful. You know how Linda is. She's been like that since childhood, everything for herself. Remember how she took my toys? Said since she's older, she deserves more. I love her, she's my sister. But I'm not stupid. Back then I waved him off. Don't talk nonsense. You're young, you'll live 100 years. But he knew. He felt something. What are you smiling at? Linda asked warily. Her voice changed, careful now. What? You've lost it? Lost your mind from grief? Maybe you need a doctor. No, honey, I answered calmly. Strangely calm. It even surprised me. Everything's fine. My mind is just fine. I just remembered something. Then keep remembering, she said, grabbing her bag off the chair. And start packing. Be out by evening. Brian's already ordered new locks. The locksmith's coming after lunch to change them. I don't want any scenes. Mom, you're an adult, you understand. I'll transfer your portion of the money to your card within a week. Not a lot, of course, but it'll be enough to get you started. She turned and walked out of the kitchen. Her heels clicked on the floor. I heard her whispering with Brian in the entryway. He said something and laughed. Then the front door slammed. They were gone. I sat alone in the kitchen. The sun shone bright and spring-like through the window. Outside, it was an ordinary day. People walking on the sidewalks, cars passing by, dogs running around. Life went on as usual, and my life had collapsed. My son lay in the ground, cold. My daughter had betrayed me, was throwing me out of my own home. But I didn't cry. The tears still wouldn't come. I stood up slowly and went to the old sideboard, dark carved oak, inherited from my grandmother. I opened the bottom drawer. Under the linen tablecloths lay a folder. Blue, thick, with an elastic band. Alex had brought it 2 months ago. I took the folder out and set it on the table. My hands were trembling. I sat back down and opened it. Papers. Lots of papers, with seals and signatures. 2 months ago, I hadn't really read them. Alex explained, and I half listened. I thought, it's too early, why all this? He's young and healthy. Why would he need a will at 42? Now I read every word. Slowly, carefully. A will. Notarized. Dated January 23rd of this year. All assets, factory, apartment, car, bank accounts, passed to me and Michael. To me, for management until my grandson reaches adulthood. After that, to Michael. Linda, nothing. Absolutely nothing. I read it 3 times. I couldn't believe my eyes. How could this be? Why did Alex bypass his own sister? Next was a letter. In Alex's handwriting. I recognized the big, sweeping script. I started reading, and the tears finally came. The very tears that hadn't come out for 3 days. Mom, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. I'm sorry it turned out this way. I didn't want to upset you with all this paperwork, but it had to be done. You know Linda. I know her too. She's my sister and I love her. But over the last 5 years, she's changed. Brian changed her. Or maybe she changed on her own, I don't know. Remember when she came for Dad's birthday 6 months before he died? She was already asking about the factory, who would get it. Dad was still alive, and she was already dividing things. After Dad's funeral, she called me every week, asked about how the factory was doing, about profit, contracts. At first I thought she was just interested, being a sister. Then I realized she was calculating how much it's worth, how much she could get. One day she just said it outright, Alex, let's sell the factory. We'll split the money and each live our own life. You'll have enough for a new apartment. I need money for Brian's business. I said no. Told her it was our father's legacy, that I'd grow it and pass it to Michael. She got offended. Stopped calling. For a year, nothing. Then she came back around, but I could see it. She was only in it for the money. Brian's egging her on. He's a lousy businessman, always in debt. He wants quick cash to grab and run. And here's a whole factory. Mom, I don't want the factory sold. Dad poured his strength into it. I poured mine. People work there, families rely on it. Robert, Sandra in accounting, Nick the welder, they all have kids, loans, lives. If the factory shuts down, they'll be out on the street. There's no other decent work in our town. And Michael, I want him to know he has his dad's and granddad's work to be proud of. Something solid under his feet. So I set it up this way. I made the will, got everything done properly. Linda won't get what Dad and I built. There are other documents in the folder. A power of attorney for the lawyer, William Kraftsov. His number is written down. He knows everything and will help. There's the certificate of ownership for the factory. It's in my name, but there's a clause that in the event of my death it transfers to you for management. The notary handled it. It's all legal. There's also a bank account. Separate, no one knows about it. Not even Rachel, when we were married. I put money aside there a little at a time, but regularly. There's $800,000 now. For Michael, for his education, his future. For you, too, so you don't want for anything. The access details are in a separate envelope in this folder, passwords, codes, everything. William will help with the paperwork if needed. Mom, you're strong. You've always been strong, you just never showed it. I know how you carried Dad through his illness, how you raised me and Linda. You'll manage. Don't let Linda scare you. Don't let Brian trick you. You have all the rights, all the documents. The law is on your side. And forgive me for leaving you with this, for leaving Michael without a father. I'd stay if I could. I wanted to live so much, had so many plans. I love you, Mom. Take care of yourself and Michael. You're the most important thing I ever had. You're Alex. I sat there and cried out loud. It was a good thing Michael was at daycare and didn't hear me. I held the letter in my hands, reading it again and again, tears dripping onto the paper, smudging the ink. My boy. My smart, careful boy. He'd seen everything coming. He'd planned it all. Protected me and Michael. And Linda? Linda turned out exactly the way he described her. I wiped my tears and pulled myself together. There wasn't much time. Linda had said I had to move out by evening. That meant they'd be back around 6, maybe earlier. It was 11 in the morning now. I had a few hours. I found the lawyer's business card in the folder. William Kraftsov. I dialed the number. Someone picked up after the third ring. Hello. A man's voice, pleasant, calm. Good afternoon, I said. My voice trembled. This is Alex Gramoff's mother. He passed away 3 days ago. Silence. Then. My God. I'm so sorry for your loss. Truly. Alex was a good man. I knew he had heart issues, he told me, but I never thought it would happen so soon. You knew? I asked in surprise. He warned me 6 months ago. Said that if anything happened, I'd need to help you. Do you have the documents he left? Yes, I looked at the folder. Everything's here, the will, the deed, some papers. Good. Then he managed to get it done in time. Tell me, has his sister, Linda, right, shown up yet? She has, I said with a bitter smile. Showed up this morning. Told me the factory's been sold, the apartment too, and that I have to move out by tonight. The lawyer swore quietly, but I heard it. So Alex was right, he said. He told me this would happen. Said the moment he died, Linda would go after the money. Pardon my bluntness, but your daughter well, Alex knew her well. I can see that, I said softly. You haven't signed anything, have you? No papers? No. She didn't even ask me to. Said everything was already taken care of. That's impossible, William said firmly. Nothing can be done without your signature. According to Alex's will, you're the sole heir, along with your grandson. Linda isn't in it at all. Even if she's trying to pull something off, it's illegal. Any transactions without your consent are void. A weight lifted off my heart. Alex had truly done everything right. What should I do? I asked. For now, nothing. Wait. Let her come back. Let her talk. Say whatever she wants. You listen, but don't sign a thing. Not under any circumstances. Even if she threatens you or tries to pressure you. Just tell her, I won't sign anything without my lawyer. That's all. No more words. And after that? Then I'll come. Where do you live? I gave him my address. All right, I'll leave in about an hour. I'll be there by evening. Don't tell your daughter I'm coming. Let it be a surprise. And one more thing. Have you gone to the notary yet? The one who certified the will? Not yet. You'll need to, but only with me. Tomorrow morning. We'll finalize all the papers officially. For today, just hang in there. You're a strong woman. Alex told me about you. Said, my mom's made of steel, she just doesn't show it. I smiled through my tears. Thank you. No need to thank me. It's my job. And it's for Alex's memory. He once saved my life, literally. I owe him. This is my way of repaying that debt. We said goodbye. I hung up the phone, and for the first time in 3 days, I felt that I wasn't alone. That someone was on my side. I spent the rest of the day preparing. Gathered all the documents into one neat pile. Read the will again carefully. Found the envelope with the bank account information. There was a plastic card, codes, and instructions. $800,000. I couldn't even imagine such a sum. Alex had saved it, for Michael, for me. At 2 o'clock, I went to pick up Michael. He came out of daycare quiet and sad. He hugged me tightly. Grandma, is it true Daddy's not coming back? He whispered. I knelt down and hugged him. It's true, sweetheart. Daddy's in heaven now, but he still loves us. He's watching us from up there. Can I talk to him? You can. Just tell him about your day. He'll hear you. Michael nodded. We walked home hand in hand, his little warm palm in mine, full of trust. And I thought, this is who I'm fighting for. This boy. So he'll have a future. So he won't be left with nothing. At home, I fed Michael and put him to bed. He was tired and fell asleep quickly, and I sat in the kitchen and waited. The clock ticked. 3 o'clock. 4. 5. At 5:30, the building door slammed downstairs. I looked out the window. Linda and Brian were climbing the steps, carrying shopping bags, looked like they'd bought new locks. I went back to the kitchen and sat at the table. My heart was pounding, but I forced myself to breathe evenly, calmly. I was ready. The door opened. Linda and Brian came in. She looked at me in surprise. You're still here? She asked. I told you to move out by tonight. I have nowhere to go, I said quietly. That's your problem, Mom. Brian set the bags on the floor, took out a box with a lock inside. Let's not make a scene. We're civilized people. Civilized, I repeated. Civilized people who throw their own mother out 3 days after their brother's funeral. Linda winced. Mom, stop with the drama. Life's tough. You'll survive. How much? I asked. How much are you planning to throw me? 100, Linda snapped. $100,000. That'll cover rent for 6 months. Then you'll get your pension and figure it out. 100,000. For a factory worth tens of millions. For the apartment I'd lived in for 30 years. For my son's life. How generous, I said. Linda didn't catch the sarcasm. She nodded. I think so too. Could have given you less, honestly. But you're still my mother. Brian had already opened the box and crouched by the door with a screwdriver. Hold on, I said. Don't rush with the lock. Why not? He turned, looking at me. Because you haven't sold anything. And you won't. Not without my signature. Silence. Linda slowly turned around. What did you say? I said you won't sell anything without my signature. Not the factory. Not the apartment. Because, according to Alex's will, it all belongs to me, and to Michael. Linda's face hardened, twisted with anger. What will? What are you talking about? I stood up, walked to the sideboard, and took out the blue folder. Set it on the table. Here. The will, notarized. Property documents. Everything. Want to read it? Linda grabbed the folder and started flipping through the pages feverishly. Brian came over, looking over her shoulder. His face went pale. This is fake, Linda breathed out. You forged the papers. The notary forged them too? I smirked. The stamps, the signatures, also fake. Want to check? Call the notary. Here's the number. I handed her the business card I'd found in the folder. Brian snatched it and started dialing. He stepped to the window, speaking quietly, then came back. His face was white. The will is real, he said flatly. Dated January 23rd. Everything's legal. Linda sank into a chair, staring at me wide-eyed. But how? When? Alex? Alex knew, I said. He knew you'd come. That you'd try to take everything. That's why he set it up this way, to protect me and Michael. To make sure our family's work didn't die. But we already signed the contract. Linda jumped up. We got the deposit, $50,000. The contract is invalid, I said calmly. You sold something that doesn't belong to you. That's called fraud, by the way. There's an article about it in the criminal code. Brian went even paler. We didn't know, he stammered. We thought we had the right. Didn't know? I looked at them. You didn't bother to check if there was a will? Or were you so desperate to grab the money that you skipped the formalities? Linda clutched her head. What do we do now? The deposit's gone. Brian borrowed money against this deal. The interest is insane. If the sale falls through. That's your problem, I said, the exact words Brian had once used. Let's not make a scene. You're civilized people, remember? The doorbell rang. I walked over and opened it. Standing there was a man in his 50s, tall, gray-haired, dressed in a dark suit. William. Good evening, he said. I'm the attorney for the late Alex Grimoff. I believe I arrived right on time. Linda and Brian froze. The lawyer walked into the apartment, calm and confident. He shook my hand, then turned to them. William Kraftsov, he introduced himself. I represent the interests of the Grimoff family, or rather, the part of the family that's legally entitled to inherit under the will. Brian swallowed hard. Linda said nothing, glaring at him with hostility. As I understand it, William continued, pulling a folder of documents from his briefcase. You attempted to carry out an illegal transaction involving property that does not belong to you, and even accepted a deposit. That's called fraud. Criminal Code, Article 159. Punishable by up to 10 years in prison. We're not criminals, Linda cried. We thought we had the right. Alex was my brother. I'm his sister. But not an heir, the lawyer said sharply. According to the will, properly executed and notarized, you receive nothing. Your brother deliberately excluded you from the inheritance. And judging by your behavior today, he was absolutely right to do so. He set several papers on the table. Here's a copy of the will. Here's the ownership certificate for the factory. It's now being transferred to your mother's name. And here's the title for the apartment, the same. Everything's legal, fully certified, and cannot be contested. Brian grabbed the papers and started reading, his hands trembling. But we already signed the contract with the buyer, he muttered. We got the deposit, $50,000. If the deal falls through, they'll sue us. The penalties are huge, we'll go bankrupt. That's entirely your problem, William said coldly. You should have verified your ownership rights before signing anything. That's basic legal competence. But you rushed in blind, and now you'll deal with the consequences. Linda suddenly started crying. She sat down and covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. I watched her and felt nothing. Strangely, no pity. She wasn't crying from sorrow or remorse. She was crying out of anger because her plan had collapsed. Mom, she sobbed, looking at me through tears, please, you have to understand. We're in debt. Brian got involved in something serious. They're threatening us, real people. We thought we could pay them back with this money. You were going to pay off your debts with my son's legacy? I asked. With Alex's memory? With Michael's future? Oh, come on, Michael, Linda shouted, raising her tear-streaked face. He's 6 years old. He doesn't even understand what a factory is. We need money now, do you understand? Right now. Otherwise they'll break Brian's legs. William raised an eyebrow. So you're involved with criminals? He asked. That changes things. If you borrowed money from an organized group, that's a separate offense. And if you tried to pay them back with stolen property. We didn't steal anything, Brian yelled. It's family property. Linda had a right to her share. She didn't, the lawyer cut him off. Not according to the will. If you want to contest it in court, be my guest, but it'll take months, maybe years. And with a 99% chance, you'll lose. The will is airtight, no loopholes, no errors. I sat down at the table and poured myself a glass of water. My hands weren't shaking anymore. I felt strangely calm, as if I were watching it all from the outside. What do you want? Brian asked hoarsely. You want us to crawl on our knees? Beg for forgiveness? I want you out of my house, I said quietly. And I never want to see you again. Don't call, don't write, don't try to contact me or Michael ever again. Linda lifted her head, glaring at me with hatred. You're serious? You're throwing out your own daughter? And what did you do to me this morning? I replied. Told me to pack up and leave my own home, 3 days after I buried my son. The only difference is, I actually have the right to throw you out. You didn't. I'm your daughter, she shouted. I'm your child. And Alex wasn't my child? I raised my voice for the first time. He wasn't your brother? And Michael, he's your nephew. He's 6 years old, he just lost his father. And what were you thinking about? Money. Only money. Linda jumped up, grabbing her bag. Fine, she snapped. Stay with your precious factory. Choke on it. Come on, Brian. Brian stood, but William stopped him with a raised hand. Not so fast. One more thing, the deposit you received must be returned to the buyer immediately. Otherwise, they'll sue you, and on top of fraud you'll be charged with breach of contract. We don't have the money. Brian groaned. We already spent it. That's your problem, the lawyer repeated coldly. Take out a loan. Sell your car. Mortgage your Chicago apartment. But return the money, and I'll be monitoring the process. I already have the buyer's contact information. Your brother, he looked at Linda, gave it to me in advance, in case something went wrong. Alex betrayed us, Linda whispered. He betrayed his own sister. He anticipated you, William corrected. There's a difference. And judging by what happened today, he was 100% right. They left without a word, just turned around and walked out. The door slammed, then the building door downstairs. I went to the window and looked down. They were standing by their car. Linda was smoking. I hadn't even known she smoked. Brian was on the phone, gesturing wildly. Then they got in and drove off. I stood there, thinking, that's how I lost my daughter. Not today. I'd probably lost her long ago. I just kept hoping she'd change, that the old Linda would come back, the kind, lively girl who used to stand up for her brother. But that Linda was gone. Maybe she'd never really existed. People change, or maybe they just show who they truly are when money's involved. How are you feeling? William asked. I turned. He was standing in the kitchen doorway, watching me with sympathy. I don't know, I admitted. Tired. Very tired. Sit down. I'll make you some tea. He actually did. Found the kettle, the cups, the tea leaves. Poured the tea and handed me a cup. Alex talked about you, he said, sitting across from me. He said you were the strongest person he'd ever known. That you survived your husband's death, raised 2 kids, and were always the backbone of the family. I'm not that strong, I shook my head. If I were, I wouldn't have lost Linda. You didn't lose her, he said gently. She chose her own path. Everyone does. She chose money. You chose honor and your son's memory. That was her decision, not yours. I sipped the tea slowly, hot and strong. It calmed me. What happens now? I asked. With the factory? You'll run it, William said. Officially, you're the director. But you can appoint a manager. Alex had a deputy, right? Yes. Robert. A good man. Reliable. Then let him handle the operations. You'll oversee the finances and sign the key documents. Alex planned everything. He left instructions and contacts for the right people. It's all in the folder. And the account? I asked quietly. The one with the money? $800,000, he nodded. It's in a special account, a reserve fund for Michael and for you. Alex saved it over 5 years, setting aside part of every profit the factory made. No one knew about it, not even the accountant. It's all legal, taxes paid, clean money. Just his personal savings. $800,000. I couldn't wrap my head around that number. My husband and I had saved our whole lives for an apartment, $50,000, and that had already seemed like a fortune. And now, $800,000. It's for Michael, I said. Everything for him, for his education, for his future. Of course, William agreed. That's exactly why Alex saved it. He wanted his son to study at the best universities, to never lack anything. And he wanted you to live with dignity. He cared about you deeply. I started crying again. Quietly this time, no sobs, just tears running down my face. William said nothing, didn't interrupt. Then he handed me a tissue. Let it out, he said gently. It's okay. You've held it in for 3 days. It's time to cry. I cried it all out, then washed my face and sat back down. Tell me about Alex, I asked. How did you know him? William smiled sadly. We met about 7 years ago. I'd been in a car accident. The car caught fire, and I was trapped inside. Alex was driving by, saw what happened, and stopped. Pulled me out, literally dragged me from the flames. Risked his life. I got burned but survived. Could have died right there. I listened, eyes wide. After that, we became friends, he continued. I offered him free legal help, for life. He refused at first, said he'd just done what anyone would. But I insisted. I helped him with the factory, paperwork, contracts. And when he got sick, when he learned he had heart problems, he asked me to prepare the will. He knew he was going to die, I whispered. He suspected. The doctors warned him, his heart was weak, stress was dangerous. But he couldn't stop working. 12-hour days. He said he couldn't let his people down, couldn't let orders fall through. He even mentioned his sister, that she was already hinting at selling, that she could smell it coming. Waiting for him to die. I had no idea, I said, shaking my head. He never told me. He didn't want me to worry. He was protecting you, William finished his tea. He loved you very much. Every time he came to my office, he talked about you, how you made his favorite stew, how you took Michael for walks, how you read him bedtime stories. You were sacred to him. We sat in silence for a while. It was getting dark outside. Michael woke up and came out of his room, sleepy and tousled. Grandma, who's that? He asked, pointing at the lawyer. That's Mr. William, I said. Your dad's friend. He came to help us. Michael walked up, looked at William seriously. You really were my dad's friend? I really was, William nodded. Your dad was a very good man. I know, Michael said. He was the best dad in the whole world. Then he turned and went back to his room. I watched him go. So small, so defenseless, but now I knew. He had a future. He had money for college, a factory that would one day be his, and a grandmother who'd fight for him no matter what. William left late that evening. He gave me his number and said, "Call anytime. I'll help. Tomorrow we'll meet at the notary's and finalize everything." I locked the door behind him, the same door Brian had planned to change the lock on. Then I sat in the kitchen, looking at the blue folder full of documents. Everything had changed in a single day. That morning, I'd been a helpless old woman being thrown out into the street. By evening, I was the owner of a factory and a solid bank account. But most importantly, I'd learned who my friends were and who my enemies were. I'd realized my daughter was gone, but my son, even after his death, was still taking care of me. I opened the folder, took out Alex's letter, and read it again. I ran my fingers over the paper as if I could somehow reach him through it. "Thank you, son," I whispered. "Thank you for protecting us, for seeing it all coming. I'll live in a way that honors your love." A new life had begun for me, without Alex, without Linda, but with Michael, and with the memory of my son, who, even after death, turned out to be wiser, stronger, and more farsighted than any of us. The next morning began with a phone call. I had just gotten up, not even dressed yet, when the phone started ringing nonstop. I glanced at the screen, an unknown number. "Hello?" I answered cautiously. "Good morning." A man's voice, sharp, unpleasant. "This is Andrew Semenov. I'm the buyer of the factory. Your daughter and son-in-law sold it to me. When can you come to sign the final agreement?" I paused. So Linda hadn't told him yet. "Never," I said calmly, "because the factory belongs to me, and I'm not selling it." "What?" He clearly hadn't expected that. "What do you mean, you're not selling?" "I have a signed contract. I've transferred the deposit." "The contract is invalid," I explained. "My daughter had no right to sell what didn't belong to her. According to the notarized will of the late factory director, my son, all property was transferred to me and my grandson. The will is official and cannot be contested." Silence. Then a loud, angry curse. "You realize I can sue you?" he growled. "I've taken loans for this deal. I'm losing money." "Then sue my daughter and her husband," I said evenly. "They're the ones who deceived you. They took your money illegally. That's fraud, Article 159. You can also file a report with the police if you like." He was choking with rage. "I'll ruin you all." "Goodbye," I said and hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From something else. A strange rush. For the first time in my life, I had stood my ground. For the first time, I hadn't backed down, hadn't let fear win. Michael came out of his room and stretched. "Grandma, who was that?" "No one important," I smiled. "Come on, let's have breakfast. Then we'll go to daycare." We had breakfast. I made oatmeal and poured milk. Michael ate quietly, thinking. Then he asked, "Grandma, is Aunt Linda not coming back?" I sat across from him, took his hand. "Probably not," I said honestly. "We had a fight." "Because of me?" "No, sweetheart. Because of grown-up stuff. Not because of you." He nodded, but I could tell he didn't believe me. Children always know. They feel everything, even when adults think they're hiding it. "I didn't like her," Michael said quietly. "She never hugged me, and she looked at Dad like she didn't like him." Out of the mouths of babes. I stroked his hair. "Sometimes people just don't get along," I said. "That happens." "Is Uncle Brian bad?" "Why do you think that?" "He was yelling yesterday. I heard him. He said we're idiots. That the factory should be sold and nobody cares about us." I closed my eyes. So Michael had heard. God, what kind of people were they, to fight and insult others in front of a child? "Uncle Brian won't come back," I said firmly. "Ever again. I promise." After dropping Michael off at daycare, I went to the notary's office. William was already waiting outside. We went in together. The notary, a strict woman in her 50s with glasses, greeted us warmly. "My condolences for your loss," she said. "Alex was a good man. I knew his father, your husband. You had a wonderful family." We sat down and started signing papers. The notary explained every document, what it was and why. William double-checked the language. I signed. "Now you're officially the owner of the factory and the apartment," the notary said, stamping the final seal. "Everything is registered and legal. If anyone tries to challenge it, it will be nearly impossible. The will is flawless." "Thank you," I exhaled. "And one more thing," the notary added, looking at me over her glasses. "Your daughter called me last night. Tried to find out if the will could be revoked. I told her it can't. Once it's in effect after the testator's death, it's final." She wasn't pleased. I smiled faintly. I can imagine. After leaving the notary's office, William and I stopped by a cafe. It was his idea. "You need to eat," he said. I bet you haven't had anything but tea since morning. He was right. I had completely forgotten about food. We ordered soup and tea, sitting by the window. Outside, people were walking by, hurrying about their business. Just another ordinary weekday. What happens next? I asked. With the factory? Tomorrow we'll go there, William replied. We'll gather the staff, announce the transfer of ownership, and appoint Robert as acting director. Later, maybe in a month or two, once you've settled in, we'll formalize everything. I don't know anything about metalwork, I admitted. I've been an accountant all my life. That's actually a good thing, he smiled. Being an accountant might be even better than being an engineer. You understand finances, and the factory already has plenty of technical experts. Robert knows production, the supervisors know the process. You'll handle the money, sign the documents, make big decisions. That's enough. I sipped my tea, thinking. The factory. I was now the director of a factory, at 60. Life is strange. What if I can't handle it? You will, William said confidently. Alex believed in you. And so do I. You're stronger than you think. We finished eating and paid the bill. William walked me to the bus stop and said goodbye. On the ride home, I kept thinking about the next day, about what I would say to the workers, about how my life would be from now on. That evening, my neighbor Vera called. She asked how I was and if I needed any help. I invited her over for tea. She showed up with a pie, still warm, smelling wonderful. We sat in the kitchen, drinking tea. I told her everything, about Linda, the will, the factory. Vera listened, shaking her head. What a snake she turned into, she sighed. Sorry, I know she's your daughter, but honestly, how could anyone do that? Throwing their own mother out on the street? I don't know, I admitted. I keep thinking, where did I go wrong? What did I do wrong raising her? Oh, stop that, Vera waved her hand. It's not about how you raised them. People choose who they want to be. You gave them both the same love, the same start, Alex and Linda. But they turned out different. Alex was kind and bright. Linda, greedy and bitter. That's their choice, not yours. I wanted to argue, but she was right. I wasn't to blame. I had loved both my children equally, raised them the same. But they'd grown into completely different people. Just hang in there, Vera said as she was leaving. If you ever need anything, I'm right next door. I can watch Michael, bring food, whatever you need. I hugged her. It's such a blessing to have neighbors like that, real, kind people. That night I dreamed of Alex. He was standing in his office at the factory, smiling at me. Mom, don't worry, he said. You'll manage. I know you will. You're the strongest. I woke up in tears, but these were different tears. Not from grief. From something bright, warm. As if Alex had really spoken to me. In the morning, William and I went to the factory. I hadn't been there in years, 3, maybe. The last time had been for some corporate event. The factory was on the edge of town, a big complex, several workshops, and an office building. At the gate, the guard let us in and saluted me. My condolences, Margaret, he said. Alex was a good man. May he rest in peace. We went into the administration building. Everyone was already there, Robert, the accountant Sandra, the foreman, the supervisors. About 20 people. They looked at me with curiosity and sympathy. William explained everything clearly and briefly, that Alex had left a will, that I was now the owner, and that Robert would act as director. Operations will continue as usual, he said. Salaries will be paid on time, orders will be completed. Nothing changes, except for the owner. The workers exchanged glances. Then Robert stood up. Margaret, he said, we all respected Alex. He was honest, fair, and always kept his word. If he left the factory to you, it means he trusted you. We trust you too. We'll keep working the same way, working well. Everyone nodded. Sandra wiped her tears with a tissue. Nick, the big welder with hands like shovels, sniffled. I stood and looked at them, ordinary, hard-working people. Each with a family, kids, mortgages, bills. They depended on the factory. Now they depended on me. Thank you, I said. My voice trembled, but I kept it steady. Thank you for how you treated my son. I'll do my best to be worthy of his memory. I can't promise perfection, but I promise honesty. I won't abandon you. The factory will keep running, for Michael, for all of you, and in memory of Alex. Robert came over and shook my hand firmly. We'll manage, he said, together. Then we toured the workshops. Robert explained everything, the machines, the materials, the process. I didn't understand much, but I tried to memorize everything. The workers greeted me, offered condolences. They were kind, sincere people. At lunchtime, Robert invited me into Alex's office. I stepped inside and froze. Everything was just as he'd left it: his desk, his computer, the wall calendar, and a framed photo, me, Alex, and Michael, taken at the summer house last year. I walked over and picked it up. Alex was smiling, holding us both close. Happy. Alive. Margaret, Robert cleared his throat. This is your office now, if you want to change anything. No, I said, shaking my head. Let it stay as it is. This is his place. I'll come here to sign papers, but it's still his office. Robert nodded in understanding. There's one thing, he said. Before Alex passed, he took on a big contract, 3 months of work. The deposit's been paid, production started. But there's an issue. We need new equipment. It's expensive, around $30,000. Alex was going to take out a loan, but he didn't have time. I thought about it. $30,000. Did the factory have enough funds, or would I have to find the money elsewhere? How much is in the account now? I asked. $20,000, Robert said. Not enough. We still need to pay salaries and buy materials. I remembered the separate account, the $800,000. I could take it from there, for the factory, for the people. But that money was for Michael. Alex had saved it for him. Then again, the factory was for Michael too. If it failed, he'd lose everything anyway. Give me a day to think, I said. I'll talk to the lawyer. We'll decide. That evening, I called William and explained. Use the reserve, he advised. 30,000 out of 800 is nothing. The factory will finish the order, earn profit, strengthen its reputation. It's an investment in Michael's future. He was right. It wasn't waste, it was an investment. The next day, I transferred the money to the factory's account. Robert was stunned when he saw the balance. Where did this come from? He asked. From the reserves, I said vaguely. Alex left it. He didn't press. He ordered the equipment and restarted production. The factory came alive again, buzzing with work. I visited every other day, signing papers, reviewing reports. Sandra patiently explained the financial details. Robert showed me the operations. I was learning, soaking up everything like a sponge. A week passed. Then another. Life settled into rhythm. In the mornings, I dropped Michael at daycare, then went to the factory or handled paperwork at home. In the evenings, I picked him up, cooked dinner, read him stories before bed. A normal, peaceful life. Linda never called. Not once. It was as if she'd vanished. I didn't call her either. What was there to say? She'd made her choice. Only once, late at night, I got a message from an unknown number. Mom, I'm sorry. Just 2 words. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I wrote back. I forgive you, but I won't forget. No reply came. A week later, William called. Brian had been declared wanted by the police. He never returned the buyer's deposit and disappeared. Linda was missing too. Their Chicago apartment had been seized for debt. I listened and didn't feel triumphant, only sad. My daughter had become a criminal, hiding, running. I'd never wished that for her. Never raised her for that. But it was her choice. Only hers. Months passed. The factory was running steadily. The big contract Alex had signed was completed ahead of schedule. The client was pleased and placed another order. Then another. And another. Business was growing. I got used to my new role. Factory director. It still sounded strange, but I was managing. Robert was my rock. Sandra handled the accounts flawlessly. The workers were honest, hard-working people. One Saturday, while Michael and I were walking in the park, a woman approached me. She looked about 35, with a child roughly Michael's age. Margaret? She asked hesitantly. I stopped and looked closer. I didn't recognize her. Yes, that's me. I'm Rachel, she said quietly. Alex's ex-wife. Michael's mother. I froze. Rachel. She and Alex had divorced 3 years ago. She'd moved to another city, left Michael behind. Said she couldn't handle it, that he'd be better off with his father. Since then, she hadn't called, hadn't sent a dime, hadn't even asked about him. It was as if she'd forgotten she had a son at all. Hello, I said curtly. Michael hid behind my back. He didn't remember her. He'd been too young when she left. I heard about Alex, Rachel said, staring at the ground. Only recently. I'm so sorry. Really sorry. He was a good man. He was, I confirmed. He's gone now. I wanted to see Michael. She tried to peek behind me. He's grown so much. Such a big boy now. Why? I asked bluntly. You've been gone for 3 years. You never asked about him, never once called. And now suddenly you show up? She blushed and looked away. I know I was a bad mother. Back then I had depression. I couldn't cope. I thought Alex could give him a better life. He did, I said. And now I do. We're doing just fine without you. But I'm his mother, Rachel burst out. I have rights. There it was. Rights. So that's why she'd come, not out of love, but for something else. What rights? I asked coldly. You gave him up. Voluntarily. Alex could have had you stripped of parental rights, but he didn't. He said, let it be, maybe she'll come to her senses. But you never did. You disappeared for 3 years. I want to take Michael back, Rachel blurted. He's my son. I'm his mother. He should live with me. I laughed, sharp, bitter. Michael pressed himself closer against me. Take him back? To where? Do you have a place to live? A job? Money to support him? I'll find a job, she mumbled. I'll manage. And until then, where would the child live? In a rented room? A shelter? You don't understand. Rachel started crying, tears streaming down her face. I need Michael. He's all I have left of Alex. I loved him. I still love him. And now that he's gone, I just want my son close to me. I looked at her and knew she was lying. She hadn't loved Alex. She'd left him when things got hard, abandoned her child. And now she was back. Why? You heard about the factory, I said quietly. You found out Alex left an inheritance. And you came back for your share. Rachel flinched and stepped back. No, that's not true. I really just want to be with Michael. Michael won't receive a cent until he turns 18, I said firmly. I manage everything, the money, the factory, everything. That's what Alex's will says. And even if you somehow win custody, which is doubtful, you'll still get nothing. I'll remain his legal guardian. Alex made sure of that. Rachel's face changed, hard, angry, just like Linda's that day in the kitchen. So that's how it is, she hissed. I'll take you to court. I'll get my parental rights back. I don't care about your money. Michael's my son, and he'll live with me. Go ahead, I said calmly. But know this, I'll hire the best lawyers. I'll prove you disappeared for 3 years, never paid child support, abandoned your son. You have no home, no job. The court will side with me. 100%. Rachel stared at me with hatred, then turned and walked away quickly, without looking back. Michael peeked out from behind me. Grandma, who was that? No one, I said. Absolutely no one. Come on, let's get some ice cream. We walked off. But inside, my stomach twisted. Rachel had shown up. That meant trouble. She didn't just appear out of guilt. Someone must have told her about the inheritance. Someone had stirred her up. That evening, I called William and told him about the encounter. Get ready for court, he said seriously. She'll file for restoration of parental rights. That's her legal option. But we'll fight. Our case is strong. She abandoned the child, paid no support, showed no interest for 3 years. The court will see that. What if the judge sides with her? She won't, William said confidently. I won't let that happen. I promise. 2 weeks later, Rachel filed the claim. I got the summons. The hearing was set for a month later. I started preparing, collecting documents. Reports from Michael's daycare showing regular attendance, good health, proper care. Notes from his doctors. A character reference from his teachers. Bank statements proving I provided everything he needed. William requested official records showing Rachel's unpaid child support, 3 years worth. Proof she hadn't contacted or supported the child. A child welfare officer came to inspect our home. Checked Michael's room, his toys, books, living conditions. Spoke with both of us. He seemed satisfied and later wrote a positive report. The court day came. I dressed formally, dark dress, low heels. William met me at the courthouse. Stay calm, he said. Answer clearly, without emotion. Don't attack her personally. We'll win. We entered the courtroom. Rachel was already there, with a young, cocky lawyer. She looked put together, new haircut, makeup, a tailored suit, playing the role of the loving, heartbroken mother. The judge, a woman around 50, entered. We stood. The hearing began. Rachel's lawyer spoke first, smoothly, dramatically. He told the court how she had suffered for 3 years, how she'd battled depression, how she'd dreamed of reuniting with her son, how she'd found a job, rented an apartment, and was ready to give Michael all her love and care. Rachel dabbed her eyes with a tissue, pretending to weep. Then William took the floor, calm, collected. He spread the documents on the table. Your Honor, he began. This case concerns the restoration of parental rights. But let's look at the facts. Mrs. Grimoff voluntarily abandoned her child 3 years ago. Since then, she hasn't visited once, hasn't called, hasn't shown any interest. She has also failed to pay child support. Here's the official record. The debt is $25,000. The judge looked at Rachel sternly. Is that true? I couldn't, Rachel stammered. I had no money. But you had money for a new haircut, makeup, and a suit, William said dryly. Just not for your child? Rachel fell silent, blushing. Next, William continued. The child lives in excellent conditions. He has his own room, educational toys, books. He attends daycare. He's healthy and happy. Here's the child welfare report. Here are statements from his teachers. Here are medical records. He laid out document after document. The judge examined each one carefully. And now, let's consider the mother's current situation, he went on. He opened another folder. A rented one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of town. A cleaning job at a shopping mall, $2,000 a month. No recent experience raising a child. No stability. I'll manage, Rachel exclaimed. I'm his mother. A mother who abandoned him, William said sharply. A mother who suddenly remembered her son only after learning about the inheritance. That's not true. Rachel jumped up. I don't care about the money. Then sign a waiver, William said. Right here, before the judge, sign a statement renouncing any claims to Alex Grimoff's estate. No money, no property, just visitation rights. Will you sign it? Rachel went pale. Her lawyer whispered something urgently in her ear. She shook her head. I am not signing anything, she muttered. You see, Your Honor, William said, spreading his hands. She's not here for the child. She's here for the money. The judge frowned and jotted something down. Are there any witnesses? She asked. Yes, William nodded. The daycare teacher, Emily, Michael's preschool teacher, walked into the courtroom, a kind woman in her 40s with a gentle face. She spoke about how Michael came to daycare every day, how I dropped him off and picked him up, how cheerful and sociable he was, how well developed for his age, and how, in 3 years, no one but Alex or me had ever come for him. No one had ever asked about him. I even asked, Emily said. I asked Alex where Michael's mother was. He told me she was living her own life, didn't want to see her son. And Michael never once asked about her. Not once. To him, his grandmother is his mother. Rachel cried then, this time for real, no act. The judge listened to everyone, then announced a short recess to deliberate. We stepped into the hallway. William was confident. We've got this, he said. 100%. 20 minutes later, we were called back in. The judge read the verdict aloud. Based on the evidence presented, the court denies the petition to restore parental rights. Mrs. Grimoff has failed to prove that she has changed or is capable of providing a suitable environment for the child. Furthermore, the court finds her renewed interest in the child to be motivated by financial considerations. Custody remains with the grandmother. The mother is granted visitation twice a month under the supervision of the guardian. I exhaled. The weight lifted from my chest. Rachel dropped her head into her hands. Her lawyer gathered his papers, visibly frustrated. We left the courthouse. The sun was shining brightly. It was a warm May afternoon. I stopped on the steps, closed my eyes, and lifted my face to the sun. Thank you, I said to William. Don't mention it, he smiled. It's my job, and my duty to Alex. We said goodbye. I headed straight to daycare to pick up Michael. He came running out, grinning, holding up a drawing. Grandma, look, I drew our house. I looked at it. There was a house, me, and Michael. We were holding hands. The sun was shining above us, birds flying in the sky. It's beautiful, I said, hugging him. So beautiful, sweetheart. We walked home hand in hand. His small, warm fingers in mine, the most precious thing I had. That evening, after Michael fell asleep, I sat in the kitchen, thinking. 2 months had passed since Alex's funeral. 2 months. I had lost my daughter but found a purpose again. The factory was running. People were getting paid, feeding their families. Michael was growing, healthy, happy. He had a future, an education ahead of him, the legacy of his father and grandfather. All of it preserved because of Alex. Because he'd planned everything. I took out his letter and read it for the 100th time. My fingers brushed over the paper. I'm managing, son, I whispered. Just like you said I would. Outside, the streetlights flickered on. The city was falling asleep. And I sat there planning tomorrow, signing papers at the factory, taking Michael to his checkup, picking up groceries in the evening. Ordinary life. Simple, honest. Without betrayal, without lies. The life Alex wanted for me. I stood up, turned off the kitchen light, and went to Michael's room, tucked the blanket around him. He was sleeping sprawled out, a little smile on his lips, dreaming something good. I kissed his forehead and left quietly, went to bed. For the first time in 2 months, I lay down at peace, no fear, no tension, knowing that tomorrow would be a new day. Hard, maybe, but I would manage. I always had. Half a year passed. Fall came quietly. The leaves turned yellow, the days grew shorter. Michael started first grade. On September 1st, I stood among the parents, watching him hold his bouquet, so proud, so grown up. And I cried. Alex should have been there. He should have seen his son go to school. But he wasn't. It was just me. And I was seeing it for both of us. The factory was thriving. Orders kept coming. I was no longer afraid to walk through the workshops or talk to the foreman. I'd learned to read blueprints, contracts, technical specs. Robert would say proudly, "Margaret, you've become a real director." Alex would be proud. I didn't know if he would, but I tried my best. For his memory. For Michael. For the 50 families whose lives depended on that factory. One October afternoon, as I was in my office signing papers, the phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello?" I answered. "Mom." Linda's voice. Quiet, hoarse. "It's me." I froze. I hadn't heard her voice in 6 months, 6 months of silence. "Linda," I said. "What happened?" "Can I come over?" she asked. "We need to talk. Just the two of us." I wanted to say no, to hang up. But something in her voice stopped me, exhaustion, hopelessness. "Come," I said. "Tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock. She arrived exactly at 7. When I opened the door, I barely recognized her. Linda had lost weight, her face pale and tired. Her hair was dull and unwashed. She wore simple jeans and a jacket, no makeup, no jewelry. A stranger stood before me instead of my polished, well-groomed daughter. "Come in," I said. We went to the kitchen. I put the kettle on. Linda sat at the table, staring out the window, silent. "Well," I said, pouring the tea. "Talk." "I've lost everything," she said quietly. "Everything. Brian's in prison, 3 years for fraud. The apartment was taken for debt. I lost my job. I have no money. I'm sleeping on a friend's couch." I listened quietly, sipping tea in small sips. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "Forgiveness," Linda whispered. "I want you to forgive me. I was stupid, greedy, a fool. Brian used me, lied to me, and I trusted him more than you or Alex, and I lost everything." Tears streamed down her face. She didn't even try to wipe them away. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness," she went on, sobbing. "I betrayed you. I kicked you out of your home. Tried to take what little you had left. I was a monster, but I'm still your daughter, Mom. Your child. And I have nowhere else to go." I looked at her and felt nothing. No pity, no anger. Just emptiness. "Do you want money?" I asked bluntly. Linda flinched and shook her head. "No, I'm not here for money. I swear. I just want to come back home. Not to live here. I know you wouldn't take me in. I just want you to talk to me, so I'm not completely alone. To be able to call you sometimes. Ask how you are, how Michael is." She lifted her eyes to me, red and swollen. "I won't ask for anything else. I won't meddle with the factory. I won't ask for money. Just let me be your daughter again. A little bit, please." I sat there thinking. Part of me wanted to say no, to remind her of everything. How she'd thrown me out. How she'd sneered about the $100,000. How she despised me. To say, "It's too late. Much too late." But another part of me saw not an enemy, but my daughter. My little girl, who used to laugh, play with dolls, beg for bedtime stories. Who'd lost her way and made terrible mistakes. But still, my daughter. "Do you really regret it?" I asked softly. "Or are you just tired of struggling?" "I regret it," Linda said firmly. "Every single day. When Brian was on trial, I sat there thinking, it's my fault. I pushed him into it. I wanted more, I demanded wealth. And he tried to please me, to find the money, and got trapped. And I went down with him." She wiped her tears with her sleeve. "I thought about Alex," she said. "Remembered how he was kind, honest, fair. How he always helped people. How he cared for you and Michael. And me? I only took. All my life, I only took. Gave nothing back. And now here I am." I poured her another cup of tea. Thought for a moment. "Where are you living now?" "With a friend in Chicago. On the north side. 1-bedroom apartment. I sleep on the couch. She's kind. She doesn't kick me out. but I know it can't last forever. I need to figure something out. Do you have a job? Part-time. At a store. Under the table. It doesn't pay much, but it's something. I stood and walked to the window, looked out into the yard, the playground below. Michael would be home soon. Vera had picked him up from school so I could talk to Linda. I forgive you, I said without turning around. Because you're my daughter. Because you're truly sorry. But trust, you'll have to earn that. It takes time. Linda sobbed behind me. Thank you, Mom. Thank you. You can call, I continued. Once a week. On Sundays. We'll talk about life, about work. Like a normal mother and daughter. But about money, the factory, or the inheritance, not a word. Agreed? Agreed, Linda said firmly. Not a word. I promise. I turned and looked at her. And one more thing. If you want to come back here, to our town, I'll help you. I'll find you a job, help you rent a place. But only if you've truly changed. If not, it's better you stay in Chicago. I want to come back, Linda whispered. I really do. This is my home. You and Michael are here. Alex's grave is here. Oh, so now she remembers to visit the cemetery? I thought bitterly, but aloud I just said, all right, come in a month. I'll figure something out by then. Linda stood up and came closer. She hugged me tightly for a long time. I stood still, not returning the embrace. I couldn't yet. The wounds were still too fresh. When she left, I stayed in the kitchen alone, wondering if I'd done the right thing. Maybe I should have refused. Maybe I should have turned her away. But she was my daughter, my child. Can a mother really give up on her child forever? Michael came back from Vera's, cheerful, waving his math notebook. He'd gotten an A and told me all about the lesson. I listened, smiled, praised him. Just another evening, another simple day. But my heart was uneasy. Linda had returned. Things would change now. For better or worse, I didn't know. Time would tell. A month later, Linda arrived. I found her a job at the factory, in accounting, as Sandra's assistant. The pay wasn't much, the work was simple, but honest. Linda agreed. She moved into a room at the workers' dorm and started showing up early every day, staying till evening. She didn't complain, didn't demand anything. Sandra told me. She's really trying. Careful, attentive. She's learning fast. I watched from a distance. When I came to the factory, I'd see Linda at her desk. She'd look up, nod, give me a timid smile. I'd nod back. Slowly, the ice began to melt. Once a week, Linda came over for tea. We'd sit in the kitchen and talk about work, the weather, small things. Not the past. The past was still too painful. At first, Michael kept his distance. Maybe he remembered the shouting, the anger. But Linda didn't push. She just said hello, sometimes brought him little gifts, candies, markers. Cheap things, simple, but from the heart. 3 months later, Michael came up to her himself. Aunt Linda, are you really my aunt? Linda knelt down, nodded. Yes, I'm your dad's sister. That makes me your aunt. Why didn't you come before? I was foolish, Linda said honestly. I did bad things. I hurt Grandma, but now I'm trying to make it right. Michael thought for a moment, then handed her a drawing. This is for you. I drew a flower. Linda took it, and I saw tears glisten in her eyes. She pressed the drawing to her chest. Thank you, Michael. This is the best gift ever. From that day, they began to grow closer, first shyly, then more warmly. Linda helped him with his homework, read him stories. I watched them and thought, maybe not everything is lost. Maybe a family can be rebuilt. Not the same as before, but still a family. Winter came, cold and snowy. By New Year's, the factory had done well. Profits were high, bonuses generous. I gathered all the workers, congratulated them, handed out envelopes. Everyone was happy, thankful. After the meeting, Robert came up to me. Margaret, he said, I've been here 30 years, and I've never seen anything like this. Such bonuses, such stability. Alex started it, but you carried it forward. Thank you. From all of us. I hugged him, this old master who knew the factory like the back of his hand. We did it together, Robert. All of us. I just sign papers, you all do the real work. Oh, come on, he waved his hands. You do the thinking. You make the decisions. That's what matters most. We celebrated New Year's at home, just the three of us, me, Michael, and Linda. I'd invited her. I hesitated at first, then decided it was time. Time to try being a family again. Michael decorated the tree, hanging ornaments. Linda helped him. I made salads, roasted chicken, turned on the TV, a light-hearted comedy was playing. At midnight, we made our wishes. Michael wished that his dad would watch him from heaven and be proud. I wished for Michael to grow up healthy and happy. Linda was silent, but I saw her lips move. She was making her own wish. After the clock struck 12, Linda came to me and hugged me. "Thank you, Mom," she whispered, "for giving me a second chance. I won't let you down. I promise." I hugged her back, firmly, sincerely, for the first time in a year and a half. "Just don't let me down," I said. "There won't be a third chance." She nodded, wiping her tears. We stayed up in the kitchen until 3 in the morning, talking, laughing, remembering the past. Michael had fallen asleep on the couch. Linda left near dawn, hugged me goodbye, and kissed my cheek. "Happy New Year, Mom. Let's make this one better than the last." I closed the door behind her and went to bed as daylight began to creep in. The first morning of a new year. A new life. Hopefully, a better one.